Jenna and just all the men of iron for inviting me here tonight. It's awesome to be here. I didn't realize we're going to have this big of a get-together, but it is exciting. Our first time to Lancaster, and the hospitality has been awesome. It's been great. As I was getting off the plane today, though, after taking off from Tampa, Florida in 89-degree weather and landing in 46 degrees, so-called great spring weather, I had to ask myself, how did I get here? And Justin actually gave you a little bit of it. We have a group of men in Tampa that we get together and we fellowship with each other, we hold each other accountable, and our slogan came from Proverbs chapter 27, that iron does sharpen iron. So I was looking through a magazine and I saw this t-shirt. I said, man, that's a cool t-shirt, and my buddies will be envious if I have one of these. So I ordered it, and they were envious, and they asked me how they could get one. I said, well, you can't get them in Florida. And I ordered 6 or 7 more and got to know some of these guys and realized that it was more than just cool t-shirts. And some of the things that you've seen today, that's what they explained to me. And I said, that is awesome. That is something to really be proud of and to take part in. So they invited me to come up for this fundraiser, and I was honored to do that. I was asked to speak for 20 minutes, and I know Garrett said earlier he's really concerned about getting you out on time. Well, you'll be happy to know I'm going to get you out on time, because I told him I didn't need 20 minutes. As a football coach, our half times are 12 minutes long. I've never spoken to a group more than 12 minutes. So we're going to get home on time. But the stories you've heard tonight and what you've heard about mentoring, it's so meaningful in my life. Justin mentioned first African-American coach to win a Super Bowl, and I can take you back 15 years ago to Super Bowl 41. We're playing his Chicago Bears and I don't want to say destroying them, but beating them soundly. And there's about a minute left in the game, and I know we're going to win, and I'm sitting there on the sideline thinking, how in the world did I get here to Miami, Florida, coaching the Super Bowl winning team from Little Jackson, Michigan? How did I get here? And I started thinking about it, and it really all came down to the right mentorship. It came down to having people speak into my life and guiding me along the way. And that journey really started with my parents. We lived in this little small automotive town. My parents were teachers, and my dad was not an auto worker. My dad was a biology teacher. But he thought differently than a lot of guys that I was used to being around, and he poured into my siblings and I, and he mentored us. One of the first things I can remember my dad saying to me was, don't be afraid to dream. Don't be afraid to set goals. Don't be afraid to want to do great things. And then he said something that I never forgot to. He said, often, don't follow the crowd. Don't go somewhere just because the crowd is going somewhere. And those things spoke to me as a young boy growing up. And that became something in the back of my mind. Dream, think, believe. Don't follow the crowd. Well, the other side of that mentorship was my mother. She was an English teacher, Shakespeare, public speaking at Jackson High School. And she kind of came from the other direction. Her favorite verse in the Bible was Matthew 16:26. And many of you may have gotten a book that I signed tonight. Just about all of my autographs, I put that verse on there because she just said that over and over and over again to us when I was young. What would it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit your soul? And so her message to us growing up was, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, it's how you live your life, it's who you live your life for. So I had this great mentorship from a very, very young age. But there were more people who became involved in my life, and they were important because I got to grow. And soon I got to be 13, 14, 15, of course at 13, you're not going to listen to your parents anymore, right? So you need some other people to speak to you and pour into you. When I was 13, the star basketball player on our high school team was a guy named Alan Truman. He was my hero. And for some reason, he took an interest in me. And he would shoot baskets with me at the park. And he'd take me to college games, Michigan State games, and Michigan games, and tell me what was going on there. And he'd talk to me, and he said, hey, you can be something special. And I didn't realize just how awesome that was and what a sacrifice that was until I became 18. And then I certainly realized I wasn't going to be hanging around with any 13-year-olds. And I understood at that point when I was in high school how special that was of Alan and what he did for me when I was young. Well, now he's 23, 24, and he's finished college, and I'm in my high school years, and he's telling me, you've got some special talent. God's given you some skills. And he told me about the drug culture that was out there and things that I needed to avoid so I didn't waste that talent. And I wouldn't have been in Miami Stadium that Super Bowl night without Alan Truman. I was blessed and fortunate then to keep going and keep working because of my parents and other people in my life and Alan. I got a scholarship to the University of Minnesota. And I had some great mentors there. And I played football and basketball for 4 years there. And then I got an opportunity to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 1977. Yeah! We're outnumbered on this side of the state, but we're still there. But I got two other fantastic mentors in Pittsburgh. My coach was a guy named Chuck Nolan. And in the very first meeting we ever had, he said something to me that really helped shape my life at that point when I was 21. He said, welcome to the National Football League. We're all rookies there at the first meeting. He said, you're now in the NFL, you're getting paid to play football, so that makes football your profession. But please, don't make football your life. If you make football your whole life, you're going to leave the game disappointed. And then he modeled for us how not to make football your whole life. And that was very, very important for me. He became a mentor, but he did something else that was really, really important at that moment. I'd been a quarterback my whole life, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. Steelers switched me to defense. I knew nothing about defense. He put me in a room with a guy by the name of Donnie Shell. Donnie Shell was 3 years older than me, great defensive back, and Coach Knowles said, you watched him. You hang around with him, you do everything he does. You don't know how to play safety, but if you hang with Donnie Shell, you'll know. So he gave me Donnie as a roommate, and it changed my life around because I'd had my parents talk to me about what it meant to grow up and be a man. I'd had other people talk to me along the way, but now I got a chance to see someone do that. And Donnie Shell and I were together as roommates for 2 years with the Steelers. And I saw him every morning wake up and read his Bible. And then he'd ask me what I read. Tell me about his passage that he read. Now, what did you read? I was like, well, I kind of read my playbook because I'm trying to figure out my job here. He said, no, that's not what I'm talking about. What did you read that's going to have an impact on your life today? Then he'd do the same thing at night. Before we'd go to bed, he'd sit there in this bed, read a Bible, say, I just read this passage today. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul said, run to win. What did you read? Well, you can get the feeling after a couple of weeks of this, I had to start reading something so I'd have something to say. But I sat in that room and I watched him and I watched other guys on our team. Some tremendous Christian men on that team. But Donnie Shell took me from where I thought about God in the abstract. Yeah, I want to go to heaven. Yes, I want to be a good person. Yes, I believe in the Lord. So what are you doing every single day to live that out? And he had a great marriage. He was a great dad. All the things I was looking for. And even though he was only 3 years older than me, he poured that into me. Made a big difference in my life. Well, 2 years after that, Coach Noel hired me on his coaching staff. And now I got a chance to be with him for 8 years and not just do things because he told us to do them and he was the head coach. I got to see why we were doing them, and I got to learn things from him. Not just about coaching, not just about playing football, but about life. And he made a tremendous impact on me. One of the things he told me when I first started coaching for him is, your job as a coach is to help your players be the best they can be. Plain and simple, that's all it is. You're not the boss, you don't have to be in charge, you don't have to be the disciplinarian. You just help your players be the best they can be. That stuck with me for 28 years. In my entire coaching career, I felt my job was to be that same type of mentor that he was for me, help other people grow. Well, those two were tremendous mentors for me, and then there was one more guy who came into my life a couple of years later, and that was a guy named Richard Farmer. He was our first pastor after I married my wife. We were looking for a church that was close to our house, and we ended up going to a church called Bethany Baptist Church in Pittsburgh, right in the heart of the city. But Richard Farmer was my pastor for 8 years, and he showed me how to be a dad, how to be a husband, how to be a neighbor, how to be a Pittsburgher. And you know, he did something that all these other people, my dad, Donnie Shell, Coach Noel, so many people, teachers that I had, he kind of finished it off by saying, yes, it's great to be a good coach. Yes, it's great to be a good player. Yes, it's great to be a good husband. But if you're not a good follower of the Lord, it won't matter. So as that clock is running down in Miami Dolphin Stadium in 2006, and it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I know we're going to be world champions, Super Bowl champions, and I'm going to have 45 seconds on the podium in front of 100 million people, and they're going to ask me what I think being the first African-American coach to win a Super Bowl. And I'm going to have 45 seconds to say whatever I want to say. What in the world am I going to say, and how did I get here? And I started thinking of all of those people that poured into my life. And that night, I was just so thankful because it didn't have to turn out that way. If people didn't go out of their way to help me, then I wouldn't have been there. Well, that kind of became the driving force in my life. I wanted to pay that back, and I wanted to do the same thing for other people. And that's what I did with my coaching career. And you may think that the culmination of it was that night at the Super Bowl. That was probably the biggest achievement that people would recognize. But for me, it's not the biggest thing. I live in Tampa, Florida now, and so many of my players off that first Buccaneer team that I coached still live in Tampa, and they are still making a difference. And part of that was because of the way that I tried to mentor them when I was coaching. One of the men I'm most proud of, people ask me all the time, who was your favorite player? Who was the best player you coached? All of those kind of questions. Well, one of the guys I'm most proud of is a guy by the name of Derrick Brooks. Derrick Brooks was a Hall of Fame linebacker for us in Tampa, but that's not the reason I'm most proud of him. I had this very same kind of talk with Derrick his second year with the team, and we talked about winning and what it was going to mean to win and how we wanted to win. And we talked about Matthew 16:26 and doing things the right way. And about 6 months later, Derrick came back to me and he said, Coach, I think I understand what you're talking about now. I've been going to this Boys and Girls Club in downtown Tampa. It's in a rough area. There's some kids there that really, really are talented, but they don't have any hope. And I want to give those kids some hope. And that was in 1997. Well, 25 years later, 26 years later now, a lot of those kids are doing fantastic things because Derek Brooks wasn't satisfied just being a good player. He wanted to pour into them. He's got a charter high school in Tampa now, doing some unbelievable things. And he's talking to kids now, and they're hearing my dad, and they're hearing Chuck Noll, and they're hearing Richard Farmer, even though my dad and Chuck Noll and Richard Farmer have never met them. They're hearing through Derek Brooks because I spent a little time with Derek, and he spent a lot of time with them. So that's what this night is all about. And you've heard the appeal, the financial appeal, you've heard the appeal to kind of get involved. How can we make Lancaster a better place to live? How can we make Pennsylvania a better place to live? How can we make the United States a better place to live? Well, it starts by reaching out, by helping others, by being a mentor to someone who's looking for it. A Tony Dungy, 50 years ago. Alan Truman didn't know at the time he was talking to a Super Bowl coach. He was talking to a little kid, but he saw some potential in me. I didn't know when I was talking to Derek Brooks what he was going to morph into, that he was going to be a Hall of Fame player and a great man. You never know when you take that little extra time to reach out and talk to someone and help them grow. You don't know what God's going to do with that. And that's why we're here tonight. That's why I'm here. These Men of Iron, it's tremendous. It's an awesome work. I salute them. You're all here because you know what it's like and how we can support them. But I just would urge you as we kind of wrap things up tonight to think about how you can have an impact, how you can make a difference, and how down the road, your legacy, it won't be a Super Bowl, it won't be NBC television, but it'll be something much, much more meaningful than that. As my mother would say, quoting Matthew 16:26, what would it profit a man to gain the whole world but forfeit their soul? We can make sure people don't do that just by taking a little extra time and reaching out and helping them and mentoring them. That's what these Men of Iron do. That's why we're all here. That's why I'm here. I want to thank you for coming tonight and thank you for supporting them.